Nobody is surprised that the International Atomic Energy Agency has warned that Iran is working toward an atomic bomb. Big deal. But it's confirming what Israel's been saying. It says to the United States, you'd better get with it. And the question is, we're going to be talking to Chris Mitchell today, is Israel ready to go to war?
Exactly, Pat. Well, you know, Israel and major world powers have to decide what they'll do about a possible nuclear Iran. In fact, as Pat said, Chris Mitchell has a story from Jerusalem.
The IAEA report stated the obvious.
It will clarify what Israel and its allies have been saying for years now, that the Iranian nuclear program for over 2 decades is aimed at developing a nuclear bomb.
The report stated the agency has serious concerns regarding possible military dimensions to Iran's nuclear program. The information indicates that Iran has carried out activities relevant to the development of a nuclear explosive device.
It is in fact probably has made even some experiments in the final stages of assembling a bomb, including explosions and computer simulations of explosions, and time is running out.
Some analysts believe the report confirms Iran possesses the nuclear know-how, means and materials to develop a bomb within a few months, and could soon carry out underground tests. Estimates show Iran has enough enriched uranium to make 4 or 5 bombs. The report said some experiments were carried out in this military complex in Parchin, about 20 miles southeast of Tehran. In addition, the report shows atomic experts from Russia, Pakistan, and North Korea provided crucial expertise to Iran. This includes work on high-precision detonators that could trigger a nuclear chain reaction. The report also indicated Iran conducted tests to develop a nuclear device that could be loaded on one of its Shahab-3 ballistic missiles. The world faces a race against time to stop this nuclear threat, in part because Iran plans to move its centrifuges to underground bunkers. This would make a military strike less effective. Israeli leaders have said all these signs mean the military option is becoming more likely. After days of making headlines around the world, Israeli officials have become quieter about the Iranian issue. They believe the IAEA report will speak for itself and hope it'll wake up nations to the danger of a nuclear Iran. Israeli leaders have maintained for years that Iran is a global threat, not just one to the Jewish state. World leaders have stayed away from talk of attacking Iran, but some countries fear Israel may launch a military strike on its own and spark a Middle East war. However, many Israelis feel if Iran does develop a nuclear bomb, Iran could plunge Israel into another Holocaust. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, back in the 1930s, Adolf Hitler, Chancellor of Germany, wrote a book called Mein Kampf. He wrote it before that, but it was published. My Struggle, what he was going to do. He laid out a plan, and the Western allies scoffed at it. Well, Hitler carried out everything he put in there as much as he could, and because of it, 50 million people lost their lives during World War II and all the things that went along with it. 50 million because of a madman. There's now a madman in charge of Iran, and if he has a nuclear bomb, he has said clearly he will use it to wipe Israel off the map. They were his words. Why will we not believe him? I've just gotten news moments ago that the Russians have said that they will not support any further sanctions against Iran. The American president is ambivalent as to what to do, and he says, well, we'll maybe put some further sanctions. Sanctions don't work. So the Israelis are saying it's our destiny. Are we going to be wiped off the map, or are we going to take action? And I think those of us who care about human justice and the survival of people need to support the Israelis in a move which they're going to have to do a surgical strike. And they're going to have to do it before those centrifuges are moved from where they are now into the mountainous areas where they can't be hit by conventional aircraft. So what are they going to do? Will the United States allow refueling in bases in Iraq? That's what the hope is. Or maybe the Saudis covertly will say to the Israelis, well, you can fuel your planes on Saudi bases, but just don't tell anybody about it. We'll see what happens. But, folks, I think in the next few weeks we're going to see a military strike against those nuclear facilities. I don't think Israel can wait any longer. And if they do, they're putting the future of their country in jeopardy. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Here's Lee.
Pat, voters in Ohio have rejected a new collective bargaining law for that state's public workers. The complicated measure was backed by Republican Governor John Kasich. The state legislature and Kasich, however, are expected to try to bring back some of the more popular parts of that bill. In Mississippi, voters turned down a measure which would have given a fertilized egg the legal status of a person. The measure was intended as a challenge to Roe v. Wade, but it also would have banned abortions completely, with no exceptions for rape or incest. And in New York, voters have rejected the campaign to unseat town clerk Rose Marie Belforti. She refuses to sign marriage licenses for same-sex couples because of her Christian faith. She assigned all licensing duties to her deputy when same-sex marriage became legal in the state of New York. That led to a write-in campaign against her, and it failed. 3 years ago, when Barack Obama won the state of Virginia, then Governor Tim Kaine announced that Old Virginia, as he put it, was dead. But it appears the Old Dominion's political pendulum is swinging back to the right. CBN's Jennifer Winshon has that story.
Virginia voters made history. The Republican majority in the House grew to at least 65 members. That's the most comfortable majority Republicans have ever held. And on the other side of the Capitol, the fight for control of the state Senate became a national battleground as Democrats and Republicans sharpened their attacks ahead of the presidential election. Republicans pulled even in a chamber previously controlled by Democrats. But Republicans have the advantage. Republican Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling is the tiebreaker. Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, who's widely expected to be a top choice as a Republican presidential running mate in 2012, says over the course of this campaign, Republican candidates have focused on providing common sense solutions to the challenges facing our citizens, and that is how we will govern in the majority. Because of its proximity to Washington, D.C., just across the Potomac River, and the fact that Virginia is a swing state, the state legislative elections are a good indicator of the mood of the electorate, less than 1 year before the presidential election.
Everything from now until November 2012 is going to be, to some aspect, about the campaign.
It's why the president is traveling to swing states like Virginia to push his American Jobs Act and sharpen the contrast between him and Republicans.
These members of Congress, they work for you. And if they're not delivering, it's time you let them know.
In 2008, President Obama won Virginia decisively with nearly 53% of the vote over John McCain's 46%. Now he'll work to woo Virginians once again, who for the moment have chosen the GOP to lead. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
No question about it, Virginia is a swing state. But Pat, Governor Bob McDonnell has already tightened the purse strings in his first 2 years in office as governor. What do you expect him to do now?
Well, he's done a magnificent job. We have a surplus in Virginia of some several $100 million. Instead of running a deficit, Virginia is ahead of the game, and we have creation of jobs in this state. Bob McDonnell is one cool dude. He really is. He's so much in charge of things, and he's so level-headed. He's done a marvelous job. The people love him. Now, what's coming up, though, is interesting. Tim Kaine is a former governor and the son of a former Redskin coach who himself is a former governor running for Senate. And Tim Kaine was put in as head of the Democratic National Committee by President Obama. So, like it or not, he's going to have to defend the Obama record. And George Allen, his opponent, will be attacking it. So we'll be interested to see. That's going to start playing out, has already started to play out. But these two extraordinary people are going to be battling across the state. And if Bob McDonnell's race is any indicator, the state's going to go overwhelmingly Republican in the next election. I just cannot see it, Virginia, any longer being found as a swing state. It's not going to be swinging. It's going to be back to its conservative roots. But this election for the state Senate is very interesting, and for the first time, maybe only the first time since Reconstruction, the people in Virginia just laughing at that was an interim period that didn't count. But this is really the first time period that the Virginians have said, okay, the Senate is Republican, the House is Republican, the governorship's Republican, lieutenant governor's Republican, attorney general Republican. Interesting. Lee?
Pat, the Italian debt crisis has claimed a high-profile political victim, Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. He will step down after failing to win a majority of votes in Parliament. Now Italian leaders will begin discussions on forming a new government, even as that country's debt crisis grows worse. Investors are worried about Italy's government bonds sending interest rates higher, now above 7%. Worries about Italy hit international stock markets hard again today. Analysts are worried about how the country can manage its huge national debt. Pat?
Well, as we said yesterday, Berlusconi was looking for like 316 votes, and he didn't get it. And so he has been very controversial. There's a sex scandal around him, and he's a big media mogul, a very rich man, billionaire, owns a number of television networks. And his administration has been fraught with controversy. But right now he's stepping down. Now, here's the deal. Italy has debts of something in the neighborhood. It was 1.9 trillion euros. I think it's about 2.6 trillion dollars in debt. Now, that's more. Get this. It's more than Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Ireland combined. And so when that economy starts in trouble, now they say that when a country is paying over 7% on its debt, that is an unsustainable burden on their treasury and on their finances. So if Italy goes down, Europe is in serious trouble, and the banks that have loaned money on sovereign debt have been taking it in the chin. And I don't know how many American banks are going to be involved in it, but it means the entire banking system of Europe is in trouble. And sooner or later, it's going to wash over on these shores. So this is a very, very serious thing. What happens in Italy just doesn't have to do with your pasta and pizza. It has to do with your standard of living. So keep your eyes on it. We'll keep you abreast as we continue to cover this story on CBN News.
Can the federal government track you while you're driving your car? That's the question the Supreme Court is trying to answer. The Obama administration has asked for unrestricted use of GPS devices by law enforcement. That means police could place a tracking device on your car without getting permission from a judge. A lower court ruled that officers would need a warrant. They based that ruling on Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure. The Supreme Court justices, however, seem to have trouble finding a way to apply the centuries-old constitutional protection of privacy to the new age of technology. The U.S. Agriculture Department is imposing a 15-cent fee on fresh Christmas trees. The department's acting administrator says the new fee is not a tax. The money from the fee would be used to support a new federal program to improve the image and marketing of Christmas trees. The Heritage Foundation reports that the new charge applies to anyone who sells more than 500 trees a year, and it notes that the sellers are free to pass along the fee to us consumers. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.